I do have an interesting anecdote about testing, and that is when I get it that when a lot of people build code from scratch, they might not see too much of a value in typing things properly or even doing tests. But when you enter a project and there is a very large code base,
Hmm.
and I really hope that all of you listening to this get to experience this at least once in your life. If that project has been like properly tested and every single script comes with its own test and their integration test and everything is super clear and super well documented. The first time I saw something like that, I was like, wow. Because I realized, honestly, I don't even need to look too much at the code. I can just read the test, and that's the best type of documentation. That to me is like, this is how you expect the code to work, which is sometimes different to how you write and how it actually works. And then just the fact that you can just go loose and make some mistakes and not worry too much about like you breaking some other things you were not aware of because some tests will tell you, that makes a massive difference. So once again, I hope that all of you get to experience this, entering a project with a massive code base that somebody took a lot of effort and love to test and to create tests, and that you know for sure that what you're doing and what you're typing is not going to break something outside of it. It's a beautiful experience.
I totally agree. And um, I agree also that it also reduces the need to do things like documentation because it's clear through the test how things work. Um, what I would also add to
How
that,
they should work.
how they should work. That is, yeah, that's a that's a good point. It's it, it it also saves just a lot of development time. So a lot of times when I see um, migrations spiraling out of control when it comes to the amount of time it takes to do them, it's the testing that's the problem, right? So if it takes me a long time to test various components, if changing one part of the code base immediately destroys everything, it's a lot more risky, and people are going to start to like experiment less. They're going to start to refrain from changing the code base, and that's where you get stuck with legacy solutions. So the more you can do this, the more evolvability essentially you're introducing in your system. The higher the complexity, the higher the scope you can handle. Um, I think that's super important, but also for yourself. I mean, it just saves a lot of time. If something breaks, you can run the test and see at least be able to let's say tick off certain possibilities of causes, especially as your system gets more complicated and there's more layers in there. This can be very helpful to
Yeah.
reduce the time to a solution. And I would also say, like for yourself, if you think about more like a professional development, like learning new technologies and tools yourself, if you let let's give an example. Let's say you're interested in learning about like these newer file formats like Iceberg and Delta and Parquet and how they all relate to each other. It's very nice if you can write a little piece of code, a little test that actually tests things like how long does it take to process this data, what comes out of it, what's the shape of it, what does it look like. So you can essentially run small experiments before you actually introduce something in a larger code base. Whereas a lot of people then start from scratch. They're like, okay, wait, I saw this new technology, I saw this new configuration, and they have to think from scratch. Okay, how am I going to set this up, write the code, blah blah blah. A lot of the times you're testing similar capabilities. So if you have like a set of tests to do all these things, you can do this a lot faster and kind of cut through all of that, let's say, repetitive setup work.